Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Sean,
Chris,
and Lee.
We're back after a slightly unexpected week off. Sorry for no show last week. My fault. I got ill.
Happens.
Well, by all accounts, it happens when you go to a certain curry house, because, Lee, you had the same problem.
I did. I had exactly the same problem, and it was very, very little fun.
Yeah, I'd say that for most of my last week. Talking of very little fun, we had the Russian Grand Prix this week, which is always a thimble of laughs.
It wasn't as terrible as it has been, was it? Let's be honest. It wasn't like real massive snooze fest. It wasn't also exciting. I think, all right, say we've had one exciting Russian Grand Prix the whole time that they've been going there for, like, was that 6 years now?
if we have, I can't remember it. I would have said that was probably the most entertaining Russian Grand Prix, but still, by sort of overall Grand Prix standards, not great. Solid sort of 5, 6 out of 10.
I was thoroughly bored, like, most of the way through that race.
I think I zoned out for the entirety of laps beginning with 30. And then came back in for a bit towards the end.
When you're writing the review, that's kind of tricky.
Nothing happened in laps beginning with 3. Trust me, nothing happened in that neck of the woods.
Fair enough. No, it wasn't. I mean, once the initial shenanigans had gone, and of course we get another first lap safety car because Russia.
What was that? It was Charles Leclerc turning Lance Stroll around, and also Carlos Sainz deciding the wall is the fastest way back to the circuit.
If it was Grosjean, he'd have blamed Ericsson for that.
Sure, Ericsson was probably got blamed anyway. To be fair to Carlos, he did say straight away, didn't he? I'm so sorry, I'm such an idiot. Knew that he'd made a mistake, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of complaints over that turn 2 re-entry lane. Just the angle that it was at, and there was no way you could do it if there was cars behind you because you'd end up getting rear-ended. It was just. It's not a great designed circuit. I know it's a street circuit, and I know they've got to fit it all between the buildings, but Tilke still did it.
Did they not design the streets with an F1 circuit in mind, though? Was that not part of the whole plan?
Yeah, and it was the whole thing was just bad. I mean,
it was the 2014. Was it 2012? Was it Winter Olympics?
No, it would have been 2014.
2014 was it? Sorry, Winter Olympics. That's when they held the first race, wasn't it, in Sochi as well?
Was it the following year? I think it may have been a year later.
Was it?
Yeah, I want to say 2015 was the first one.
Even still, it's been fairly. There's been nothing to really report from, has there? The Russian Grand Prix, other than Putin the first time they ran it, which was weird.
Yep.
He just turned up every given opportunity. And
I mean, it is the home of the Putin parade, because it was him that insisted that the national anthem would be held at the front.
Everybody must attend.
Yeah.
So because the Formula One national anthem's being played with all the drivers at the front is because of Vladimir Putin.
It was 2014, the first one.
Good lord, fair play to them. They turned that around quick.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Sochi is just...
it's not great.
It's its party time has kind of been and gone, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's had its time in the limelight. We held the Winter Olympics. It was 6 years ago now, guys. What else have you got going on? All the buildings are still there.
Yeah, I think the big
it was
stadium.
nice to see people at a race. That was the only plus for it for me.
That's true.
Which is unusual for Russia, because you don't normally see fans. Because they normally make a point of not showing them.
They were noticeable, weren't they, in their presence, because we haven't... Yes, there were fans at Mugello, but I mean, it was social distance. There was only like 2,000 people there, but there was genuinely quite a few thousand people watching the race in Sochi. I believe Turkish Grand Prix is selling tickets as well.
They are, as is Eiffel Grand Prix.
And Portugal.
And Portugal, that's very true. Portugal going for about 45,000, they reckon,
Okay.
which is a good crowd.
For a small circuit as well, because Portimao's not a very large circuit, is it? So
No.
45,000 is going to be, even though it's nowhere near the capacity of like somewhere like Silverstone or Spa, it's going to be quite a packed atmosphere if they get that many people in.
Yeah, I don't know what their distribution is in terms of how much of it is grandstand and how much of it is sort of hill.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's all seated or whether it's just find yourself a bit of space on some grass.
Yeah. I mean, it's looking up for the remaining races of the season, isn't it? We're already over halfway through. That's 10 down. Is it 10 down, 8 to go?
8 or
Right,
7?
I
think
Seven?
it's 7.
I think it might be
it's
7.
17 races.
10 down, 7 to go.
Oh, it doesn't seem like 10 minutes since it started.
They've cracked on with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
They certainly have. Weekends off have been few and far between, but we've got a little bit of normality now, because, I mean, this is another show where we're only doing a review and not a preview.
Well, I'm looking forward to next week's preview as well of the German, the Eiffel Grand Prix, should we say, at the Nürburgring, because long range weather forecasters got snow for the Eiffel Mountains for
Good
early
Lord.
October.
That sounds
That's
quite exciting.
That's not good.
It could be. It's either not good or hilarious. It could be very exciting.
Could be wet weather tyres, and only Alonso takes to the track.
Yeah, I mean, last time there was snow at an F1 session, we did get told that Mercedes were listening to our podcast, so, you know, it might happen again in a couple of weeks.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that was Barcelona 2018.
Yeah,
Yes.
the testing there just after we'd name dropped a visit to Mercedes and interviewed George Russell. Ah, there it is.
And had Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton and Toto Wolff on a podcast. Thanks to the chaps at Paul. You can name them because I can't remember.
UK Car Talk.
Yes, that's the guys. So yeah, of course, that was the year you and Lee went to the Mercedes launch as well. So that was just before testing.
Yes,
That was a good year.
it was. I can't believe it was 2 years ago. 50 years ago, as it feels like.
It does feel like a long time, doesn't it?
When it was easy just to get on a plane and fly to the adjacent aisle and then return.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, for some reason, the higher ups in the Isle of Man call England, Scotland, and Wales the adjacent isle. Which I
But for Ireland is also next to us.
which they don't appear to have an official name for apart from Ireland.
Exactly.
But yes, for some reason, and calling it the mainland over here is not...
Definite no.
Lee, as token Manxie, you look down on that one, don't you?
I don't look down on anything. Words don't concern me.
That makes a change. So, anyway, before we talk about the race, the big news to have come out over the weekend is Chase Carey is, well, going to be pretty much the new Bernie, although not quite with the same job title. Because Bernie
No,
was
he's stepping up.
stepping up or stepping sideways or stepping. Bernie was chairman emeritus. Until they got rid of him.
It meant he was so far up his own arse that he couldn't. Anything he said didn't matter. That's basically what they gave him, wasn't it?
Yeah. But Chase Carey is stepping up to be non-executive chairman. So effectively the boss, but doesn't do day-to-day shit.
I think it basically means he can still attend races and get the hospitality as and when that's back up and running, but he doesn't really have to do anything.
That's usually what.
It's a transitional thing, isn't it? Usually, a non-executive chairman, because Stefano Domenicali will come in as the CEO of Formula One
and president.
And president, yeah. And just in case he's really shit, there's a non-executive chairman there just to sort of step back into the role within the first year if they need to. But I would be surprised if Chase Carey, even stepped away from his non-executive chairman role after 1 year, if he just stepped away from his role as non-executive chairman.
It'll be nice to have somebody in doing the job for Formula One that every year they do it might not be their last year of life. Do you know what I mean? There's a stability there. I don't mean to be nasty to Chase Carey. He's just not the youngest man in the world, is he?
He's only 60 something, isn't he?
Do you know what? I
I thought he
have
was
said there was a
late.
huge age difference between Domenicali and Chase Carey. I think Chase Carey's just grey, isn't he?
Oh, is he? See, I thought Chase Carey was older. I thought he was in his late 60s, 70s.
Carey
no, Chase Carey
is
is
66.
66.
Is he really?
Yeah.
My word. Time has not been kind.
Domenicali is 55, so yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but
Still younger than Bernie.
Yeah.
everyone's younger than
Even if
Bernie.
you add their ages together, still younger than Bernie.
And a square root of their ages.
Did I read somewhere the other day that Bernie Ecclestone's oldest daughter's in her 60s?
Paul
That
wrote
sounds
that.
about right.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did this on the podcast a few months ago. His eldest daughter, which I think she's called Deborah, is 65. I did the joke
That's
about
just insane.
she told all the bingo mates that she'd just become a sister again.
Yes, that's what I read. Fucking crazy.
Yeah, I can't remember who that was. Who I need to give credit to. I think it was somebody on Discord. I think it was Zach.
Yeah, Deborah is a grandmother.
So Bernie has great grandchildren.
He has
Wow.
what's he got? Five grandchildren, and yeah, a great grandchild.
Chase Carey is Irish.
Well,
Now,
there
is he
you go.
Irish or is he American Irish?
Irish.
He was born 22nd of November 1953 in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
just generic Ireland, not a specific bit of it.
No, just Ireland, apparently. He does say he's an Irish-American executive.
Well, there we go.
That doesn't sound suspect.
Oh, but I'll give him his due. He said, didn't he, when he took over as, when Liberty did their Formula One takeover and it became Formula One Group, that he would not look at any long-term appointments as had been in the sport before. It only takes a couple of years for you to make a decent impact, and then you should really look to step aside and let somebody else come in and have the. He's doing exactly that. Was it 3 seasons now? So 4 seasons.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
about that.
start of 2017 that he took over.
Yeah, so this is his 4th season in Formula One, and then he hands it over to Domenicali at the beginning of next year.
'Cause
He's doing exactly what he said he would do.
Because he was gonna go last year to give the new boss a year's run up to 2021.
Then obviously that's been held back a year.
That's been held back until 2022, and that means that Domenicali still gets that year in the run up to the big rule change. But I mean, I think Liberty and Chase Carey have done a hell of a lot for F1 just over the last 4 years. The way that it's modernised, things like accepting the fact that digital media is out there. Lifting the ban on drivers doing social media posts from inside the circuit.
Yeah, that's been insane because especially with this newer generation of drivers, Lando Norris, George Russell, less so Alex Albon, but everybody's posting on social media from the circuit. That was not allowed under Bernie's rule, if you remember. Lewis Hamilton got told off for Snapchatting on the podium.
And even the teams were very restricted, I think, weren't they, in what they can post? And now, we've seen teams having a virtual game of, like, Connect 4 via Twitter during ring delays.
Yeah, because I mean, it used to be, and this included the fans as well, that any footage that was taken inside the circuit was property of Formula One.
That may still be the case, but I think they're quite lax in enforcing it.
I think it's only in certain circumstances now. But I mean, you weren't even allowed to go there and film yourself in the grandstand, which I always thought was a ridiculous rule.
If you did it, it belonged to.
It belonged to Bernie, basically. He owned he owned your footage, your phone, and possibly your soul.
Ah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
That's how he nourishes himself. The souls of F1 fans.
certainly sucked the souls out of certain things, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that bit in The Dark Crystal. But yeah, I think I think Chase Carey has done a good job with
I think so.
everything that's been brought in. Be interesting to see how Dominicali fares. I mean, everyone's saying, "Oh God, it's another ex-Ferrari that's up there," because obviously we've got Ross Brawn, there's Jean Todt. Although Todd is not standing for re-election as FIA president
Because he is ancient, isn't he?
Yeah. What is it, 2022 his term expires?
Oh, could be.
Something like that.
That was one of the conditions of Dominicali taking the job, apparently. This is according to Sky at the weekend.
Oh, so is there a thing there? Do they not get on? Is this what's implied?
Everybody in motorsport seems to hate John Todd as FIA president, don't they?
Well,
He's not a liked man, but I mean,
No.
he's
not exactly covered himself in glory in his term, has he? All we have to do is say Thursday of Australian Grand Prix weekend. No one knows what the hell's going on, and the big boss is posting pictures of himself at an awards ceremony in Paris, complimenting the lovely dinner that he's just had.
Yeah.
Did he take over from Max Mosley?
Yes.
See, when people look back on the days of Max Mosley with sort of rose-tinted spectacles,
Nobody
you know you're
looks-
a bit of a prick.
Nobody looks back on the tenure of Max Mosley with rose-tinted spectacles. Jean Todt was the compromise candidate, and
Yeah, he was brought in to steady the boat, if you remember, because the FIA was in some real trouble, and
Oh, yeah,
so
no, but
many
now-
people had left.
Now I think some of the stuff that Max Mosley said at the time, I think he's being vindicated on quite a lot of stuff, especially down to budget caps and things like that. These are lots of the stuff that Liberty are bringing in is stuff that Max Mosley was talking about in 97 when the Concord Agreement was up then.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, at the time it was very much a closed shop because Bernie was head of F1, Mosley was head of the FIA, and they were each other's deputies as well,
Yeah.
which always made for, whatever they said was going to get agreed with, and nobody else had a choice.
I don't disagree with that, though. Because I think Formula one of the issues Formula One has now, even given how good a job Liberty's done, and realistically, we won't know how good a job Liberty's done until we get to 2022 now. That's when we'll know if they've done a good job. But I do think Formula One has a issue with the inmates controlling the asylum.
The problem is, though, now all the inmates have actually burst out, and the former inmates are controlling the asylum.
Yeah, I disagree with Bernie being Max Mosley's deputy and Max Mosley being Bernie's deputy. That was a bit weird because everybody cringed, if you remember, when a big decision was to be made, and all of a sudden one of them wasn't well because it meant the power went instantly to the other person, and the only person they had to consult was themselves.
Yeah.
So, I agree with the way it's structured now. Domenicali being an ex-Ferrari man, if he had gone straight from Ferrari, I think the conspiracy theorists might have a point. But the fact that he went to Lamborghini, who, let's be honest, don't get on with Ferrari at all whatsoever, and decided he went to Audi, and then Audi placed him in Lamborghini, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a stint at Porsche as well, I think, with Andreas Seidel.
Yeah. So, so you've got Domenicali may be ex-Ferrari, but I don't think he's looked upon by Ferrari as like, they look at him, Stefano Domenicali, do you remember those days? I think it's kind of like, well, he went to almost every other team that we dislike in motorsport outside of Formula One. So, he's not buddy with Ferrari. Ross Brawn, people seem to have forgotten that Ross Brawn had this stint at Mercedes after his own team.
Yeah.
Ross Brawn's ex-Ferrari as well. It's like, yes, but he also had Brawn GP and Mercedes. He was the head at Mercedes before Toto Wolff came in, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think was he was slightly unceremoniously ousted, was he not?
Well,
he was a little bit.
I remember
Moved
him saying,
aside.
I remember him saying something like, they brought Toto and Lauda in, but the boardroom only had 2 seats.
Yeah.
I think Zetcher may have been involved as well. The chocolatier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, to say that Ross Brawn, to say that it's a Ferrari thing is a little bit, and Jean Todt hadn't been at Ferrari for a couple of years, I think it was, when he was made FIA president. So, yes, they have all at some point seen varying levels of success with Ferrari, but it certainly doesn't mean that it's going to be a Ferrari run sport, should we say. And we certainly haven't seen that with Ross Brawn being at the head of the rules for the last 2 years, I think it is now, 3 years. He seems to have acted in a very fair way. And as Lee said, we won't know how good that particular side of the job is until 2022 rolls around. We'll just have to wait and see on that.
Just be interesting to see what sort of direction Dominicali takes it in. I'm not saying it's going to be all about Ferrari, but the good thing about it now is there's a racing businessman in charge rather than somebody who's, no offense meant to Chase Carey whatsoever, but a professional executive. He's run
television executive.
Yeah, he's run TV networks before, whereas Dominicali comes from a motoring background.
Yeah.
Let's be fair, though. I think anyone that gets that job, it's Liberty clearly have a vision for Formula One. It's clearly more of a entertainment entity, I think, in the long run, than it is so much like a grassroots racing sport. You can see that by the like on-screen data and stuff like that, which seems to mean absolutely nothing to somebody that knows something about Formula One. They appear to be graphics for people that know nothing about the sport because it's obvious bullshit.
Only 10%.
Yeah, and
AWS bullshitometer.
No, it's not. It's the other one that gets me is when they have like the quickest people rated from like 0 to 10. Yeah,
my God, I cannot even begin to understand this graphic.
George Russell was heading it, and like at the time when that turned up, like Lewis Hamilton was 5 seconds down the road from Bottas. So in my eyes, Lewis Hamilton was probably the quick guy then.
I think my favourite of all the graphics
we don't need
is
this, do we?
We
need the time.
Forecast.
Just look at the times.
Yeah,
I miss the old 90s graphics. I quite like the like being able to see where everybody is, but I think that should only be something that comes up very seldomly every sort of 5 laps. All you really need is what drivers are on the track that you're watching at this present moment in time, and what the difference is between them, the cars in front of them, and the cars behind them.
Pretty much what you get now. But I know what you mean. I don't mind the graphics package, but this stupid bloody performance thing, this 8.7 out of 10 and like 3.6 out of 10. It's like I don't need to look at like who's performing better in the corners. All I need to look at is the leaderboard that kind of tells me who's fastest by the quickest times, because that's kind of the idea of the sport.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The whole fucking thing's stupid. But what I was going to say was, I think anyone that takes that job on, Liberty clearly have a road that Formula One's going to go down. Which, I mean, again, I've always been one that champions entertainment over this idea of pure sport. I think at the end of the day, we watch it for entertainment. So that's why I like the reverse grids idea and stuff like that. If Liberty have took Dominicali on, then he's clearly been brought in under the understanding of what their initial vision is.
Which, if you go back to when they took it over, was between 20 and 22 Super Bowls a year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's... I can understand what they're trying to say. It's make every event special and all. But again, talk about the reverse grid idea. I still think that's a good move. That's something that would be entertaining and different. But You can't.
I still think we might get to see that once if the championships are decided early on.
I don't. The teams that have everything to lose from that, i.e., a Mercedes, Red Bull, because they know they're going to be starting up there quite close. Probably McLaren as well, because they're going to get Mercedes engines next year, and they might be eyeing themselves up at being best of the rest behind Mercedes once they've got a Mercedes lump in the back of it. I just don't. I don't see teams sacrificing an advantage. That's where you need your dictatorship of who the owners turn around and say, no, this is the rules, so you either play by the rules or you play somewhere else.
Yeah, well, all the drivers, majority. I can't think of. Well, I've heard of any driver that's up for it, but all the drivers that have been asked about it earlier in the weekend, Russia said absolutely not, and teams have said pretty much the same thing, haven't they? Team bosses, so it's difficult.
But what I don't get is I don't get why it's so different for GP2. Why in GP2? Why does no one care about it then? It's not a gimmick.
I think in GP2 or in F2 rather, it's more about giving people the chance to showcase their skills rather than just purely
it's a spec formula,
about,
isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget in F2 and F3 as well. It's a spec series. They're all in identical cars with identical engines. So the whole thing comes down to driver skill.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
So isn't that worse? If it's identical cars and identical engines, then penalising the people that do well for doing well.
But if they're doing that well, and then say they win the feature race on the Saturday and start from 8th, if they then come 3rd the next day, that then shows them in a better light because they've made up so many places in the race.
I know what you mean, but it's still it's no more or less of a gimmick than it would be in Formula One. You could say the same as now. You say, well, Lewis Hamilton starts a race on pole, and unless something goes wrong, he's going to win the race. But if there was a sprint race and he had to start last and he finished 3rd, then people go, wow, didn't Lewis Hamilton do well? It's the same thing. It's all about what keeps people entertained.
It was a car development thing then, though, isn't it? Which is something that's in Formula One, which isn't in a lot of other series, including the junior formulas.
But that's something that the reverse grids would end up playing into car development, because we've seen it before now where cars are it's really difficult for them to follow. They would have to build cars that it's easier to follow if that was the case. I still think Martin Brundle's quote is still fucking brilliant as far as overtaking in Formula One goes, where he said, we spend an hour on Saturday lining the cars up from fastest to slowest, and then we get confused on Sunday when they don't overtake each other.
Random grid. Scrap qualifying, random grid. Make it a draw.
That would be interesting. Draw lots on the way to the grid.
Yeah.
It's a gimmick. But no, the sprint race I think is a great idea. But like I said, I don't think it'll happen while the teams have too much say in the sport. I think there's too much for the teams that are doing well to lose.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, it's the teams only have that much say during the season because it's mid-season rule changes that need the agreement of all the teams. Now, it could be that something comes in post-season, unless it's or at the start of a new Concord agreement, where this is how it's going to be: sign or don't sign.
I don't know. I think the teams have. The teams have so much weight behind them, it'd be hard to do that.
Unless you're Ferrari, then you can just veto anything at any point, regardless of whether you've even signed a Concord
Reverse
agreement.
grid might be quite handy for them at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gets them a bit higher up.
Yeah, but Vettel's usually in a reverse car.
Maybe that's a thing.
Just like he was in qualifying on Saturday. Shall we talk about the race then?
If we have to.
Yeah, we have to, because it happened and it was a thing.
Let's do it while we can still remember what happened.
We all sat and watched it. Right, first thing, turn 2.
It sounds like you listened to Hot Lap this week. This week's Hot Lap was called a Russian Grand Prix that happened.
Shit, I was gonna use something similar for the title of this one. I'm gonna have to think now.
Good lord.
Use my quote from yesterday if you want.
Which one was that?
Mother Russia, rules follow you.
Yeah, that'll do. Or, seeing as I've used song title puns before, like Mother Russia Rain Down, please. Sisters of Mercy track from many, many years ago. Anyway, right, turn 2 sucks. We've got that out of the way. Start with Williams. 3 stopping George Russell in 18th, because was he actually going for a fastest lap? When he
I
put
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. He damaged his tyres, didn't he? Damaged his hards earlier on. Props to Williams for trying something different. It didn't work out. George had been quite honest with that and just said, look, I made some mistakes. I think the team probably did too, but at the end of the day, we finished last out of all of the finishes because we decided to do things a bit differently and it didn't work.
In his words...
Was it lack of fannying around he's blamed?
I should have been fannying around to avoid the incident at the start.
I mean, it's an interesting way of approaching a race. I think fannying around is not normally part of your pre-race.
Oh, hang
checks.
on. No, what the headline says, George Russell, I should have been fannying around.
Yeah.
And then the first paragraph, George Russell says he was too aggressive on the first lap and regrets not taking his usual cautious approach instead of fannying around.
Oh, I read that earlier, and I think they had it his normal approach of fannying around.
I don't know. There was or wasn't fannying around. But yeah, killed his tyres and just bollocksed his race completely.
Bollocksed and fannying.
Yes. That last lap that he did though, that was a decent bit of pace. So they can drag something out of the Williams for one lap. But we see that every Saturday nearly.
Yeah, on softs, on
Mr. Saturday, isn't he? He's called Mr. Saturday.
Yeah.
For that exact reason, into Q2, fantastic. So he's got the single lap pace, but I mean, we just don't. So true, Williams. Like in recent years, like we don't know how good or bad that car is to sort of like measure the drivers. We didn't know when it was Stroll and Sorokin. We didn't know when it was Stroll and Russell, and we don't know now that it, sorry, no, it was Kubica and Russell, wasn't it? And then we don't know now when it's Russell and Latifi. We just don't know how good either of those drivers are. You know that Russell can out-qualify a teammate because he's done it 31 times in a row now. But the fact that every time it gets to Sunday, Williams might start like, ooh, I wonder if today's the day that they'll get a point, and they just drop like a stone to the back of the grid.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. It's
What
not
is
as bad.
worth noting? Sorry, carry on.
I mean, with
It's not as bad as it has been, but come on, like there must be something they can do about Sunday race pace.
I mean, with
What is worth
penalties,
noting is
with penalties,
the-
George started 12th. Sorry, 13th.
Yeah.
what is worth noting is that George Russell, before he had to have that last pit stop that he had, was just coming up to the back of Latifi. I think he was like 2 seconds behind, and over the course of the race, he made up 30 seconds on Latifi.
Yeah.
So it's the car. It will be interesting to see. Well, the 2022 Williams car, because obviously we're not going to get any major changes between now and then. They're going to be using this year's car, this year's engine, this year's tyres next year, and this year's lineup. I think.
Yeah, they both signed up for 2021.
Yeah. Another year of crawling around the back, because I can't see any other team dropping like a complete rock, with everything staying the same. But yeah, it was just one of those Williams weekends. Good on Saturday. We're also on the circuit on Sunday.
Yeah.
I just wonder how long George Russell can keep the shine on himself and motivation up with given what's happening with him.
Yeah, it'll be telling what's going to be happening what's going to be happening with him contract wise in 12 months' time. Is he going to get a Mercedes drive? Is he going to go to Aston Martin if Vettel doesn't work out, or Stroll strikes out on his own?
Could be an option at
What does-
McLaren for 2022.
Yeah.
See, I think there's every chance that George Russell, given the right car, could be the star of the field.
Yeah. It's
There's just something a bit extra about him, and the idea that somebody could come into Formula One and we don't see as like full potential is, at least we know Williams is sort of for the time being like static. So even if he stays with Williams for 2022, hoping for a better car, at least it's still going to be there. The idea that somebody like that could get shuffled out of the grid because Williams went under, that worried me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a big loss in many ways if Williams had folded. Just got to see what the new organisation brings to the team.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be good to see next year when they've got a permanent team principal. Obviously they've done a lot of work previously on rebuilding the technical department after the out and out lows, no pun intended, of the last couple of years.
I wonder whether there's a chance of Paddy Lowe going back to Williams now.
Now that the Williamses have gone,
There's probably more chance than there was before the Williamses went.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not out of the question. I mean, I guess it all depends on how many staff have been retained from when he was there, and how did he get on with the people that he was working with.
What I saw on Drive to Survive, what everyone saw on Drive to Survive, I would say not very well.
No. That is the thing that could be the issue.
Because I mean, it sounds like it was just not very well managed, the whole situation there, and that's concerning if he was to come back in quite a senior role.
I think the thing is, they seem to want him to do something different. They seem to want him to. They wanted him to be like a figurehead for the team, where that doesn't seem to be the. It doesn't seem to be the low skill set that the top and bottom of it is that he's one of the best in the world at what he does, and it wasn't utilized. I can't help but think that was too many hands above, moving pieces around which they didn't know how to do.
Yeah, it's akin to like a when Notts County signed Sol Campbell.
But as it turned out, they didn't really, because they didn't have any money, because the guy that said he was fronting the cash up was an absolute crook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This will solve our problems.
Yeah, because they also signed Sven-Goran Eriksson.
I'd forgotten all about that, yes.
Forgotten that as well.
Yeah, one of them didn't go on the pitch, and one of them didn't sit in the dugout at all.
Yes.
Shall we move on to McLaren?
Yeah, it's a shame that they're the second team to talk about, but Carlos Sainz got that second turn runoff just wrong. He was obviously foot down, desperate first lap, and instead of
yeah, he got it as wrong as Grosjean did, but in a worse way. Because Grosjean managed to go to the right and hit something. Sainz went to the left and hit something that was more solid than what Grosjean hit.
I think Sainz says he went over a sausage curb on the way, which sort of unsteadied him a bit as he was going through the narrow bit.
Everybody had already said it was too tight, and the speed you had to slow down to get through it safely was going to cause an accident. So he kept his foot in it and clouted the wall and caused an accident.
Because I think there was two cars behind Sainz when he went through, so he couldn't slow down because somebody had just ploughed into the back of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then that, of course, set the tone for his teammate's race, because his teammate backed right off because he basically Sainz spun on back onto the track in front of Lando. Lando then went for an early pit stop when he found himself right at the back of the train, and turned out not to be a very good strategy for most of the Most of the early stoppers.
I think he'd got some problems as well because he ran over a lot of debris, and I think it had caused a bit of floor damage too.
He said something about the steering wheel, didn't he, when they were behind the safety car? He said it was going from sort of light to heavy, and it obviously something had gone a bit wrong.
So yeah, it sounds like both McLarens got damaged in the same crash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where are we next? Haas. K-Mag 12th. I mean, he was running in 8th at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he dropped down a bit late on. I think they both made tyre stops quite early, and I think kind of started to lose it a bit towards the end.
Yeah, and Grosjean, of course, just kept losing it.
He had to pit as well late on after he went through the polystyrene.
The one that brought the virtual safety car out.
Yes.
Yes, Hoover needed on track.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, Grosjean just seems to have no interest whatsoever, and I think he's now just sitting it out till the end of the season, cashing the paycheck, and he's off ski. That's it. He's finished. You know, he's completely phoning it in. You don't even hear him whinging anymore. I just don't think he can be asked.
No, he got knocked out in Q1, didn't he? And was like, "Yeah, great car, guys," on the radio, like not sarcastically.
Really?
Like he was like, "Yeah, we really good
Yeah,
car."
yeah.
Well
He
done."
seemed to really enjoy that race. Weirdly, not race. Sorry, it was the quali, wasn't it? Yeah.
Strange individual.
Yeah, I think he's just completely given up. I mean, there's been talk about this being his last season for a while now, and I think
That's all because he said that he didn't know what he wanted to do next year, wasn't it?
Yeah, and yeah, I just think we're seeing he's circling the drain.
I think he did give an interview post race where he has insisted he's got options for next year.
Yeah, it depends what.
As in, like shallots or onions.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, cookbook, TV series.
Got options for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think we'll see 2 new drivers in the Haas.
Yeah, possibly.
We've said this for the last 5 years.
We have,
Yeah. I mean, we were chatting on Discord at the end of the race, and I did, we did the usual sort of discussion about rock stars and wankers, and we all came to the conclusion, Rockstar Grosjean's agent.
Well,
It is a man who's earning his money,
I'm starting to think Grosjean has a picture of Gunther Steiner and Gene Haas with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein.
Grosjean didn't fire himself. But yeah, I think time is definitely running out for the pair of them. I mean, all right, Haas have signed a Concord agreement. They've committed to the next 5 years. Or that entry will be there for the next 5 years. Whether Gene Haas sells it or not is another matter. Should we start a rumour? Maybe.
Is anyone in the market for an F1 team? I haven't heard wild speculation for a little while.
Well, if Ryan Reynolds and Mac from Always Sunny in Philadelphia don't get to buy Wrexham, then they might have their sports money to spend somewhere else.
They're definitely buying Wrexham.
It seems like something Ryan Reynolds would do. Have you seen his streaming platform?
I haven't seen his streaming platform, but he
But
is
what I did-
legitimately involved in a bid to buy the non-league football club Wrexham.
He released a streaming platform, and if you go onto it, you sign up. It's free to sign up to, and every bit of it looks like Netflix. Apart from then, you notice there's only one film on it, and
Wow.
it's a film he was in years ago, but it's there like it's loads of different films, but with different like covers and stuff
Oh,
like
like
that.
different thumbnails from the whole thing.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
Excellent. His gin
Did you see
brand
about his
makes
gin
a hell
company?
Of
Yeah,
they make
yeah.
a hell of a lot of money on that.
Is he Aviator?
Yeah.
Yeah, he put like a couple of $1 million into it, and everybody was like, "Ooh, a couple of $1 million into gin." I think it's just sold for something like $600 million or something ridiculous like that.
Fuck off.
No, he has
Wow.
by random sports club money. He's done all right in his investing.
He's done well for playing exactly the same part in every film he's ever been in.
Yeah, but the pit lane interviews will be absolutely fucking brilliant.
Hmm.
Right, Alfa Romeo next. Giovinazzi 11th, Kimi 14th.
Giovinazzi, as good as you can be without actually achieving anything there. He was really excited about being 11th.
Oh, that's gonna be on my gravestone.
How was your race? I was as good as Gutierrez.
Yay.
Massive
how-
mediocrity.
Does he
Given
get-
how Alfa Romeo have been, though, in the last sort of year, over the 2020 season, they found it difficult, haven't they? They found it a tough going.
I mean,
Ferrari-powered cars have found it tough going. So for Giovinazzi to
be the second,
suddenly appear,
he was the second best Ferrari-powered driver.
Christ.
he was. But I mean, for him to just suddenly start appearing again mid-season, I've got to be honest. I think it's a bit late even for Giovinazzi this year.
Yeah.
And the only thing that might save him is the fact that Alfa Romeo has been a bit shit.
Yeah,
but
I still think
you've got Schumacher and Eilert, haven't you? Eilert's a Ferrari junior driver, isn't
Yeah,
he?
Schumacher,
Schwartzman.
Eilert, and Schwartzman all pretty much ready to go.
one of those three, and it's looking like Schumacher at the moment because he's in the lead in F2 at time of going to press because there was protests over his winning the feature race on Saturday. Yeah, but if it's not him, then it's going to be Schwartzman or Eilert.
Yeah. Well, there's talk of Ferrari trying to get one in Alpha and one in Haas.
Right.
Yeah, could well happen. So
Don't forget, Kimi may not be in Formula One next year.
I
Kimi,
think
isn't
there's
it?
more
He will
chance
do
of
what
two
Kimi
new
does.
drivers at Alpha. I think there's more chance of two new drivers in Alpha than there is of Giovinazzi getting another season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's done enough.
in the Sauber days, they've not been afraid to put two rookies in the car at the same time. What was it? Nasser and
Gutierrez?
Ericsson wasn't a rookie.
Ericsson
Gotta
came in
remember-
with Caterham, I think, didn't he?
Yeah. Ericsson was the
Roberto
only
Merrick.
driver to drive for Caterham, who then went on to drive for another team in Formula One.
I thought
Every other
Roberto-
driver who drove for Caterham and then retired.
I thought Roberto Meri went somewhere else. Did Heikki Kovalainen not drive for Caterham and then come back with Lotus?
Yes.
Yes, actually, he did. He replaced Raikkonen when Raikkonen did his back in.
oh the back.
The back injury through lack of payment.
Yeah. But he was rubbish.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying it was a quality return, but it was a
Yeah,
return.
no. But in terms of permanent seats, everybody who drove for Caterham, Marcus Ericsson was the only driver who went on to another permanent seat in Formula One.
I think that's what you got to think with Grosjean as well. We keep saying every year it'll be Grosjean's last. But Heikki Kovalainen came back to Formula One. Like, give Grosjean all the stick he deserves. He's a better Formula One driver than Kovalainen.
How many wins has Grosjean got?
How many race-winning cars has he been in? Oh,
Well, at least one.
At least
'cause
one.
Raikkonen won with the Lotus.
yeah, but he had
3 races at Lotus that year, I think.
He won in 2 different seasons, didn't
but
he?
and he did have a scotch of podiums, though, didn't he, Grosjean, that year?
8, I think. I think he's got 8 podiums
Yeah,
to his
and
entire
was-
career.
was that his first year back after falling out of Formula One?
No, he came back. It was
2011.
2009, and then I think he had 2 years out, and then came back in 2012. I think
But let's face it, the
11 or 2012.
Raikkonen won three races that year, but the McLaren that Kovalainen had, it was not.
Yeah, no, he should. Kovalainen should have done better with the car that he had.
Yeah.
But
Kovalainen was the reason that Ferrari won the Constructors' Championship that year.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
Never since Heinz-Harald Frentzen has someone come into a championship-winning team and done so rubbishly.
No, I can't think of anyone that has. No, I think you're right.
No.
I think you're right.
no. But yeah, the Kovalainen's return was just that was a stopgap, wasn't it? Don't forget. So
It was a who's available and cheap. Oh yes, Heikki Kovalainen.
yeah. When arguably it should have been Bruno Senna, because I think he was a legitimate test driver at the time.
Obviously, Kovalainen had more sponsorship behind him.
Presumably so, yes.
Maybe.
But yeah, back to Alfa Romeo. It might be a good car with a better engine in.
Yeah, I don't see them switching from Ferrari. I said this on a podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah, if Ferrari do lose a team in the next couple of years, it'll be Haas.
Yeah, and possibly even as early as next year, if well, not next year, you know what I mean, for 2022, if the rumours are to be believed. Haas have been in talks with Renault, I think it was. So
I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for Sauber to fuck Ferrari off, to be perfectly honest, and become autonomous again.
Their technical partnership, I think, is up after this year, but they have said they're in talks about extending it.
I think
they would go back to being Sauber if there weren't Alfa Romeo, but for the time that they're Alfa Romeo, they will be powered by Ferrari.
It's got to be, because you can't have a brand from the Ferrari family with a different engine in.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo Honda sounds wrong.
You know, it would be, and we're going back to Grand Prix Manager 2, where, you know, Ferrari were powered by Ford at one point in one of my game saves.
Yeah, that's just the algorithm's gone wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you might say it sounds weird to call it Alfa Romeo Honda. Don't forget, we've got Aston Martin, Red Bull, Honda.
Very true.
I'm pretty sure we did have at one point, talking about the same team, BMW, Sauber, Ferrari.
That is true. But I think, you know, that was after BMW gave up making F1 engines and just had the name on there for sponsorship purposes because they'd already withdrawn, and then Peter Sauber managed to get the money together and re-signed BMW as a title sponsor.
Yeah, that's what they were title sponsoring a team that was powered by one of their great rivals. I want to see BMW back in Formula One. I want to see Toyota back in Formula One. I want to see Ford back in Formula One. I want to see, you know, all the greater manufacturers that are still around that have a history in Formula One. You know, I want to see them back in. All right, Toyota maybe not one of the great manufacturers, but they've got a history in Formula One.
Yeah, I think, what was it, Ross Brawn said about 2 months ago that it's going to be 2026 before we'll see another engine manufacturer, because there's no point doing the R&D now for an engine when the engine formula is going to change at the end of this current Concord agreement.
You watch, somehow it'll get locked in until like 2032.
And if that's the case, we might see them coming back. I mean, Porsche had built an engine, hadn't they?
Gerhard Berger
48-year-old Lewis Hamilton is this 19-time world champion.
Yeah, Gerhard Berger, so it's an interesting start there, has said Porsche want to build an engine or have started building an engine, but yeah.
So it's probably not going to happen, and they're just, sit down, you're drunk. Right, AlphaTauri next. Kvyat in 8th and Gasly in 9th.
Solid day out.
Yeah, as it turned out, Gasly's late stop didn't affect him in the end, because it screwed his tyres. Ended up down in 12th, and made a bloody good move on Lando and Albon.
Mm-hmm.
To
he did,
pull the positions back, and Giovinazzi as well, because I think he came out behind him.
Yes, I think he would have done. Yeah.
Danny Kvyat 8th in your home race when you're driving an AlphaTauri. That's pretty good going. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean they have come on again this year, and you can't really say what they'd achieved was down to shenanigans. You know, that is a capable middle to lower end of the point scoring car. Yeah, all right, it's got a win, but there was shenanigans.
Yeah, the win was shenanigan-y, but yeah, they're definitely capable of double points finish as they were in this race.
You know, this is back to the days when it was Sainz and Verstappen driving for them. You could expect a couple of points finishes just by them getting on with it and doing it.
Yeah.
And I still think Gasly is best served in this car while he's with the Red Bull organisation, because he just seems to drive it a lot better, and there's nowhere near as much pressure on him.
I still think he might find himself in Red Bull next year.
It would be a shame, because I think it'd screw him over again.
I think the possibility's still there.
What, of him being in the Red Bull or being screwed over, or both?
Both, yeah, no. I think the possibility of him being in the Red Bull, not to repeat ourselves too much because it's something we discussed only a couple of weeks ago, but I think the possibility remains that Red Bull could still switch things around a little bit and not really surprise us, because it'll all be internal within their two teams, but just, 2021 might not look as sure as we think it does for any of those Red Bull drivers, unless your name is Max.
I was going to say, I think we can see Max driving a Red Bull.
Oh, well, he's under contract, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we could. Yeah, the way Red Bull work it, we could see a different driver at each race.
I mean, right now, I know we're not up there with them yet, but it's not really regarding the race. I think a smart five might be on Perez.
Not beyond the realms. He's looking for a job. He's saying he's hoping to announce something very soon. He's been in negotiations with a couple of teams. It'll be one of the next 2 or 3 Tuesday mornings that he'll announce where he's going.
Of course, yes. I think Perez will go to Haas, but I would like to see him. I would like to see him in the Red Bull, but I don't see it happening.
I think Perez goes to Red Bull and Danny Kvyat gets thrown out again.
I think Danny Kvyat gets thrown out anyway for Tsunoda.
Oh yeah, we've got Tsunoda as well, haven't
don't
we?
Forget about him. The Honda's
Well, it
choice.
might not work well for Gasly either then, because if they get rid of, if something does happen in Big Boy Red Bull team, I think what's his name? Why can't I remember his name?
Albon?
Yeah. I think Albon goes back to Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Or AlphaTauri.
I think Gasly should be looking elsewhere because it's just an easier, less dramatic option. Not necessarily because he isn't good enough to be in that car, but just because it's just so much less hassle to be in that family.
Kvyat to Alfa Romeo.
Interesting.
I think Gasly to Alpha is not a bad shout.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Maybe a Gasly to Haas or Alpha or anyone else who randomly has a seat going. I lose track.
Well, Gasly, it might be a bit of a problem for Kvyat finding another drive, because, I mean, at least you were pretty sure Schumacher's going to be in Formula One next year. Alonso's coming back, so there's two drivers coming into Formula One, so that for people that have to make way for them. And if you are looking for new drivers, you've got Hülkenberg, which it's gone quiet on, hasn't it? But he was looking like he was set to come back as well, so that'd be another driver knocking somebody out. And if you've got the Kvyat and Gasly that are sat there, you'll take Gasly.
Yeah.
So I think Gasly might be a bit of a problem for Kvyat finding another drive, because
and don't forget, Perez is going to be ahead of him in the queue.
Yeah.
Yes, that's also true.
And then that's however many other drivers from GP2 manage to break the way in. Maybe if an Ilott does manage to get through, or like you say, Tsunoda manages to get through, all these people have got to shuffle somebody out.
No, it's a fair point. There are not a huge amount of seats available, and quite a lot of people seem to be after one. So
yeah, I mean, we could be on for a repeat of last year, where we get 3 drivers moving up from F2.
I don't think it'll be as many as 3, but
I don't know, because I mean, you've got Schumacher, who at the moment is looking like he's
I mean,
gonna win.
whoever's the champion has to, because they can't continue.
Yeah, but then there's talk of Ferrari getting Schwartzman in a junior Ferrari team.
Schwartzman is a rookie in F2, so it doesn't do him any harm to hold him there for another season if a seat isn't available.
But Ferrari are also pretty big on Islet and want to
Yeah.
get him in. And then on the Red Bull side of things, you got Tsunoda, who is on the Red Bull Junior Driver Program and backed by Honda.
Yeah.
So
I think it's pretty much a case of if he has super license, he gets the seat. I think that's pretty much the deal that's going on there.
yeah. Well, I mean, he's doing a test in the big boy car.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could get 3 coming up.
True.
You know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And with the returning Alonso, all of a sudden you've got a lot more drivers with experience than there are seats, and the teams will have their pick. You know,
I think that's why
it's not looking-
Haas
it's-
haven't jumped for
Yeah.
Perez yet.
yeah, it's not looking good for K-Mag if Grosjean retires.
No, it's a buyer's market, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we've got.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, if you've got a choice of Gasly and Perez and Hulkenberg, you're probably not picking K-Mag.
Yeah, I mean Hulkenberg's got sponsorship. He's got all,
And looked quite handy
Yeah.
in the race he
Yeah.
did.
yeah, decent driver, and he's got the Decra money.
Mm-hmm.
Perez, we know he's got form,
Yeah.
and he's got all the. Why can I never remember his name?
Carlos Slim?
Yes.
Carlos Slim,
Yeah, he's got
Mexican guy.
he's got his $10 million.
I mean, yeah, you only have to look, don't you, at the Mexican Grand Prix. He is on every billboard in about a 10-mile radius of that track.
Yeah. So he's going to sell a lot of T-shirts as well. So they would be the first 2 choices because they come with the backing, the money that can go straight into the team. You've got 2 former Red Bull drivers who have been basically on the Red Bull program all their life, and their only sponsors have been Red Bull, and they're not bringing any outside money in.
See, this is why the time is now for Gasly, having just won something. He actually now can, if he breaks away from Red Bull, get himself some sponsorship and
Yeah.
be good to go. That's what his management should be doing now, is saying, if he's not Red Bull back, do you want this?
Yeah.
And then they can go to other teams and say, we could bring this brand, that label, so on and so forth.
It would be the ultimate if Gasly goes to Haas and gets backing from Rockstar.
Oh, that would piss everyone off.
That, of course, means that his teammate would have to set up with a drinks company called Wanker. Talking of which, should we do Ferrari next?
Ah,
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're a lot higher up than the order than they have been in recent podcast reviews. But the reason behind that is another monumental drive from Charles.
after he'd punted Lance Stroll out of his way.
Yeah, that was a bit wankerish of him, let's be honest. If we was going to talk rock stars and wankers, I think I immediately called Charles Leclerc a bit of a wanker for taking Lance Stroll out of the race and making it look like it was Lance Stroll's fault, because nobody thought that it was that he'd been tagged by anybody. Stroll went around and into the barrier, and instantly everyone thought, "Oh, what a dick!" But actually, it was Charles Leclerc's fault and not Lance Stroll's.
I mean, it got us 9th place in Pit Lane Girls' Funniest Tweet of the Day awards, because I tweeted with a video of you two playing "Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crashed Car."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Stroll was looking handy most of the weekend. He's really improved.
I think he's settled now that he knows that. Well, he knew anyway, but now that he knows that he's Aston Martin for next year, Seb's going to be his teammate. He doesn't have to worry too much about what he's got to do for the rest of this year. So now he can just get on and do a job.
Have we accidentally started
he was
talking
doing
about
well
Racing
before
Point?
that, though.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we were on Ferrari.
Were?
Well, we got as far as Leclerc ran into Stroll, and then we talked about Stroll. But
Yeah, oops.
That's how
let's go back to
exciting
Ferrari
Ferrari
then,
are
yeah.
this year.
Charles Leclerc drove incredibly well. Sebastian Vettel less so.
Yeah.
Done.
Vettel did hold up Ocon long enough to help out Leclerc, though, which was an unusual bit of Ferrari strategy going quite well.
The first time ever.
Yeah, it might not have been planned. It might have just been a happy accident for them, but it did do the job.
Yeah,
Yes.
Vettel couldn't drive the car fast enough to put a gap between him and Ocon couldn't drive the car fast enough to get past.
Yeah.
But Vettel's spin on Saturday was...
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, he just... I don't know, he bounced off the curb and then the back end just decided to swap places.
Tidied up after
He did
himself,
on Saturday
though, didn't
what we all think Lance Stroll did on Sunday, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Nobody actually hit him, not even Ericsson. But yeah, picking up the front wing and sticking it in the cockpit.
Yeah, we like that. People should clean up after themselves when they make a mess.
Are you
Absolutely.
are you listening, Roman Grosjean? Destroyer of polystyrene.
Destroyer of a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, he'd be there a while, wouldn't he, if he had to pick up
I'm
all of his
surprised that,
breakings?
is Grosjean human?
What would he be if he's not human?
Well, that neck does not look like it can withstand those G-forces.
But he can't be machine, because machine would be more accurate, you would think.
Well, you say that.
A machine built in the days before machine learning, because he
Ah.
doesn't appear to.
Yeah, there is no AI aboard this Grosjean.
It's like in the F1 game when you've got Raganathan as your teammate and you won't move out of the way for you.
It's just it's like the F1 game when you got AI set to like stupid. That's yeah. Anyway, Ferrari.
So they Ferrari'd it up. Right, Renault. Danny Rick in fifth. There was a lot of thoughts that he would get the podium this time round.
I thought I predicted a podium for Daniel Ricciardo. It's coming. It is coming. I mean, fifth place. He's had 3 fourths and now a fifth. At least 1 fifth. It can't be far away.
Yeah, he just spent too long stuck behind Ocon, didn't he? Early on, and everyone sort of got away from him.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, I was surprised Renault didn't swap him round.
They did eventually because Ocon couldn't get past Vettel.
But
Then he got that's where Daniel Ricciardo got his
Yeah.
5-second penalty from as well, because in trying to pass Ocon, he misjudged his braking into turn 2 and went the wrong side of that bollard, but then didn't come back on the track the way he was supposed to.
That seemed a bit rough of Ocon, that,
Yeah.
to me.
That seemed to be the thing, didn't it? Ocon, I think, maybe hadn't quite figured out what he was going to do before he did it, and yeah.
I think he knew exactly what he was doing. I think he left it late, then essentially broke late to let Ricciardo pass, which left him screaming off the track.
Yeah, he wants to try doing that to Alonso next year, see how well that goes down.
GP2 driver, GP2.
Never did GP2, straight from GP3 to F1.
Oh God, he wasn't
Ah.
he?
Who was that?
Alonso's
Ocon.
going to maul him.
I predict we don't see Ocon in a Kamoa cap. I don't think he will be endorsed.
I thought you were going to say worthy then.
I predict we don't see Alonso and Ocon on the same straight.
Yeah, funny how Alonso suddenly got more involved when it turns out that the Renault's not shit.
Yes, he was there
Yeah,
doing
he's turned up at
photo
the engine
shoots.
factory, hasn't he, within the last sort of week or two?
Yeah, because I mean, when he signed it was going to be, it's all about 2022, don't even think about next year. Now it's like, oh God, can't wait for next year. Look at me, Mr. Renault, black and yellow cap,
Yeah,
comes
why
out
have
now.
they kitted him out in a Renault kit? He's never actually going to wear that.
FKR, FKW, FKR.
Full kit rockstar.
Ah! No, I mean, there's talk that we will see Alonso in a Renault at some point this season. Either
Because they have said he's officially registered as a young driver.
yeah, they managed to rig the regulations so that he can do the young driver test at the end of the year in Abu Dhabi.
There's no regulations rigged. Let's remember how many young driver tests Oliver, Paffett did.
Yeah, but that was
Oliver Paffett.
Yeah,
We know
it
exactly
Gary
the
Turvey's
genre of
brother?
driver you
yeah,
mean,
that's
though.
it.
Well, the thing is, you still counted as a young driver if you hadn't started 2 Grand Prix.
For that
sorry.
particular
Alonso's
team.
won
Yeah.
2 world championships. There's nothing young about him.
But because he's a new signing to that team, and he has not done 2 Grand Prix since signing that particular contract for this stint with that team, he is classed as a new driver.
Because they're a different Renault to
yeah.
the ones that he last drove for. If there is a loophole anywhere in the F1 regulations, somebody will find
That's
it.
what it's all about.
Imagine being that guy who has to find the loopholes.
It'll be
I'm
a
sure he
lawyer,
doesn't mind
though,
when
won't
he's
it?
sat finding the loopholes in his massive house.
Yeah, it'll be a very well compensated lawyer, I'm sure.
I mean, this is why Ross Brawn's got a loophole finding team.
He has, yeah.
So, yeah, we will probably see Alonso in a Renault while it's still Renault.
Possible.
I'm surprised that he's not going to be doing a couple of FP1s.
I think it was at Mugello. Martin Brundle gave reasoning behind it, and it made plenty of sense. But unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what it was that he said.
Was it that he can't be asked?
That could have been part of it. Got to be honest. But no, there was a pretty cromulent reason why.
Is it something to do with bubble? Because
That-
Nissany has done an FP1, hasn't he? But is in the bubble anyway because he's in F2.
Yeah, it might be that, which is why he's not turned up at any circuits and he's free to do what he wants any old time.
And given the fact that Ricardo was on the same plane, unmasked with Max Verstappen on the way to Russia, I think we can all get on board with the fact that when the cameras are off, the bubbles mean fuck all.
Well, I don't know because Brundle wasn't there this weekend, and neither was Damon Hill because they were doing a classic car event on Wednesday in the UK. So they'd have been outside the Sky bubble. So I think they're actually enforcing the bubbles for TV crews as well.
Yeah.
No, well,
the
that
whole
might,
of Formula One, isn't it? They said they were going to try and do it team by team, and each team would have their bubble and wouldn't be allowed to mix with another team until they realised that would actually be impossible when it came to things like
Podiums.
podiums
I don't know,
and
they still give
press
the
conferences.
they still give the pretense of bubbles
Yeah.
between teams.
Well, Netflix this weekend were with Mercedes, anticipating the Hamilton-Schumacher equaling win, which did not work. But Mercedes gave them all team kit so that they could tell who was in the bubble.
So Netflix were running around with Petronas shirts on.
Yeah, they were full kitted.
Also,
fully kitted.
If we're going to talk full kit wankers,
Yes.
Stoffel Van Dorn
Oh, my
doing the
God.
interviews.
He is
Oh.
not
Fucking
Mr.
hell.
Saturday.
That was a personality meeting, wasn't it? Fucking Van Dorn and Bottas. Good lord.
But if there aren't already enough Mercedes and Petronas labelled T-shirts on the podium interviews, he had to go and wear his.
Yeah, they really were anticipating it being the Hamilton weekend, weren't they? And it did not work
Yeah.
out.
No, it did not.
I missed the Stoffel stuff because the iRacing endurance race was starting, so I was busy setting that up.
You
while it
didn't
was going
see
on.
it. I don't know whether I'd go as far as to say you missed it.
Right, okay. I heard you saying, "My God, what is this?"
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
He's not an interviewer.
I don't think he'll be invited back.
Maybe they're going to get Nick De Vries in to do the next one. See how he goes.
Couldn't be any worse.
I mean, McLaren reject Mercedes, snapped him up, stuck him in Formula E. Now stick him on the other side of a microphone. Anyway, now we'll do Racing Point.
Unfortunate for Stroll, and an
Yeah.
amazing drive by Sergio Perez in which he did nothing, just stayed in his position, which just so happened to be fourth.
Yeah, he just got on with it.
Yeah, I think with all the shenanigans, he was a sort of candidate for driver of the day because he did what was expected of him.
And then some. Yeah, I think Racing Point would have snapped your hand off if you told them before the weekend that they would they'd get a fourth place, because they weren't really there at Mugello, were they? They weren't as on it at Monza as we thought they were going to be. So to get like a a really decent result. And let's be honest, Stroll was looking strong.
Well, Stroll had upgrades, didn't he, that Perez didn't. So, I mean, that will be frustrating for Racing Point not to have seen that in a race setting. But assuming those upgrades work, that means there's more to come from the Perez car.
Well, there was an issue with Stroll's car in Q2 because after the red
It
flag,
melted, didn't it?
he didn't come back out.
Yes.
So there was because while they were clearing up after the red flag, Stroll was out of the car and sat on a toolbox looking very, very pissed off.
Yeah, no, they had him in the queue and they were waiting that long. It just overheated.
Because there was a worry that they were going to actually start working on the car in the fast lane, which would have been
Also not ideal.
yeah more pit lane related shenanigan-y penalties.
Yes.
We'll get to those. But no, I mean, Perez is doing a good job of putting himself in the shop window.
Yeah.
I mean,
Haven't done any more this weekend, to be fair.
Obviously, coming with a minus $10 million price tag helps, but
Yeah.
he's not sort of dropped his head on track after the announcement that he's off, and that's good to see.
Quite the opposite.
You do see that with some drivers, and it's the ideal time.
Vettel is the obvious.
Well, yeah. And it's the ideal time for him to actually get his head down rather than drop his head down, and just let his driving do the talking. I'm confident we'll see him in a car next year.
Yeah, he should be fine. Something's gone wrong if he doesn't get a seat.
Well, he may lose a seat and not be in Formula One at all next year. We'll just have to. He could be one of those ones that drops out and a couple of years' time we're going, do you remember Sergio Perez? Like, what a good driver he was. But we'll see.
Hopefully not.
Just like we do about, I don't know, Esteban Gutierrez, Guido
I don't know
van der Garde.
I don't know that we look on those quite as favourably.
Rio Haryanto.
Christ.
No.
Max Chilton.
No.
No, I don't think Perez is in the same list as these people.
No, fair point. All right. Right, Red Bull next. Albon managed to get back to 10th and Max in second. Albon took a hit before the race because he had a 5-place grid drop for getting a new gearbox.
Yeah, and then was involved in a first lap tangle and pitted early, didn't he? Because he had at the back Norris, Albon, and George Russell.
Yeah, which was a fun little interlude.
Yeah, the three that stepped up last year having their own little battle at the back.
Looked like 2018 F2 all over again. It was pretty nostalgic, actually.
Did a little bit.
Albon again just seemed off the pace. I mean, he didn't qualify particularly well, did he? Because he was
10th. He was 10th. I think it was 1.2 off Verstappen's quali pace, and Verstappen's quali lap was good, but it wasn't 1.2 better than it should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. He did split the Mercedes.
He did, but his pace wasn't fifth row, without that freak lap.
No, quite right. There's that disparity there, isn't there, between Verstappen and Albon? It's usually been about 7/10, I think. Mm-hmm. So for it to be 1.2, I get your point. Is quite high, even in comparison for those two drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Albon said during the week that he just didn't know where Max was getting the extra pace from.
Jos was there, so...
Oh, so he had to say that, otherwise he'd have got twunted.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, a fairly okay, I suppose, recovery drive from Albon. Nothing special. When you look at all the drivers that finished ahead of him, you think, yeah, on the day they probably deserve to finish ahead of Albon.
It was just the fact he was there in the first place, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know there was stuff that happened, but again, Max Verstappen was in second place, splitting the Mercedes, and Albon was nowhere to be seen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's it's not the way to have the follow-up race to your first ever podium.
That's the thing, isn't it? Coming off that race, you were thinking maybe this is it, maybe this is the start of the great Albon resurgence, but...
I predicted him for third.
That was not correct.
I put £5 on him getting third.
That was even less
correct.
Was
money.
Yeah.
That was money wasted.
He has been
cursed.
Money
wasted.
It's all right, Lee's that set in his betting ways. He's still backing Nick Heidfeld for a win at some point.
Always believe.
The Bottas said, "Never give up."
With a lot more beeps in there. But Max was great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was just got on with it, and typical mature Max Verstappen, doing the absolute best he could when he was being given information. He turned around at one point, didn't he, to his radio engineer and just said, "Listen, can you not? I'm just having my own race here. Let me know a bit closer to the end if there's a chance of anything."
I mean, he complained early on that it was getting no rear end grip whatsoever, but I think a lot of drivers were having the same problem.
It happens with a safety car, doesn't it? You get, particularly on the medium tyre, it goes a bit cooler, and it takes a while to come back in.
Yeah, usual safety car thing, but obviously we got the radio for dramatic effect, because that's what we seem to get a lot of this weekend.
Yes.
Dramatic radio. As
All we hear is dramatic radio.
As we will discuss now for Mercedes. Now, I've seen Hamilton's behaviour after the penalty this weekend described as being a, and I quote, a whiny little bitch. He was complaining in the same way that Kimi was complaining with his penalty, the big for whats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Kimi for what was not whiny. The Kimi for what was just pure anger.
But the whole penalty thing, never seen two penalties for the same thing issued separately before.
Yeah, it's.
But it was two practice starts, though,
this
wasn't it?
is the thing. He did it twice, so yeah.
Yeah, break the rules. You got to. If you break the rules, you got to, accept the consequences. Danny Ricciardo's response when he didn't join the track in the right place and was told he had a penalty. His attitude was totally polar opposite of Lewis Hamilton's. Hamilton, even when he took his pit stop and they did those 10 seconds before they started working on the car, team radio came on. This is ridiculous, man. Like Hamilton saying, "Man, it's the three legs, four wheels joke."
That's always been the trigger word, hasn't it? He's pissed off. "Don't talk to me in the corners, man."
Does someone at Mercedes need to get more into the rule book? Because they had this thing with the not thinking to look for the pit lane being closed. Hamilton asked, "Can I go further down?" and was told, "Yeah." So for some reason,
he had his.
Sorry, go on. I was going to say, and he didn't seem to know when he came in, knowing that he had a time penalty, that it was going to be added onto his pit stop, which has been the rule for many years.
Yeah, it has. But the people are getting excited as well that Hamilton's 2 points away now from a race ban. He isn't.
No, not anymore.
Points away, and that to me says that somebody somewhere whispered in someone's ear and went, "You fucked up a little bit there. That's not the driver's fault. You penalised the wrong thing there."
I don't think they did fuck up though, because how often it's the nature of Formula One. Someone goes out for an out lap, and they have to change the gearbox all of a sudden before a race, and they've got a 10-place grid penalty. It's not the driver's fault the gearbox failed, but
no.
that's just what happens. Penalties are given as a team.
And time penalties always come with penalty points. That's just... It's an odd thing to rescind the penalty point. I realise after the race
think it was
you can't
because
take
of
the
what he
time
said
back,
in the
but...
pit.
Yeah.
When he said, "Oh, they're trying to stop me," because I don't believe that when he was saying they're trying to stop me, I don't believe he was talking about them winning races or beating records. I think he was talking about his activism, for want of better words, and I think he had the penalty points receded because Formula One was worried about bad luck.
Well, I mean, there is a whole other discussion about the way that the stewarding was done this weekend, because apparently Mika Salo, who was the driver steward this time, there's rumours flying around that he was texting a friend of his who works for the Finnish broadcaster, and they had details of Hamilton's time penalties about 5 minutes before it was officially announced.
Because we had no idea that there were two separate things, did we? Until it came up that there were two 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, what the fuck's this one for?
Yeah, it was like violation 1 and violation 2.
Yeah, but the thing is, when a driver asks, Yeah. I mean, I'm not getting into the argument as to whether or not the penalty should be applied, because I always maintain, and I still believe, that if you are a fan of the sport or a spectator or anyone, you have to respect the rule makers. You might not agree with it.
Absolutely.
But, it's so bad in sports when fans and people on the outside fringe of the sport get shouty and so wound up about the rules of the sport. When you look at, like Daniel Ricciardo and gentlemen in sports, when rugby players are told they're sin binned and they just go, right, okay, and they walk off.
Mm-hmm.
You get much more respect for that than you do for a footballer throwing his arms in the air when a free kick's given against him.
I've never known a football referee change his mind when the players protested.
Exactly, yeah. So it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. I can't think of any other sport where a player protests and the umpire, referee, whoever it is, changes their mind. It's just not the done thing. So yeah, it's just disappointing for Lewis Hamilton, and if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, it's disappointing. But the bottom line is the rules are broken. Is it harsh? Yeah, probably a little bit, but there's got to be.
It wouldn't have been harsh if someone had come out of the pit lane and creamed into the back of him.
Oh, correct.
That's the thing. It's not like it was just a grey area or an odd misdemeanor. It was a safety aspect.
Yeah,
and when you do something that involves safety and then you take something away from it, you allow an area that can then be exploited by other people because a precedent has been set.
One of the other issues was, though, there was no actual area marked where practice starts were allowed.
But it's in the race director's notes, isn't it?
Everyone else managed it. It was on the side, wasn't it?
When you get the race director's notes, which are all on the FIA website, usually from the Wednesday, there is usually a track map with all the marshal points, all the gaps in the fences are marked, all the fire hydrants marked, the pit lane entry bollard is marked, and all that is on there. I'm sure the practice start area is usually on that track map.
Yeah, sometimes though there's actual signage on the track as well, which there wasn't this weekend. I mean, I'm not defending what happened, but maybe something like that needs to be standardised as well.
Yeah, probably not a bad plan.
Michael Massey.
Regardless,
also
finishing third though. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say Michael Massey also hasn't done himself any great favours now, because the crash that finished the F2 sprint race on Sunday, Luca Giotto got out the car while it was on fire and it burnt seriously. Now, what had happened there was the actual crash was in between two fire marshals' points, and Michael Massey actually said the reason that it took so long to get the fire out was because it was in between those 2 points. And I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't fancy running 150 metres with a fire extinguisher.
Well, yeah, but what if Giotto had been knocked out?
Exactly.
You can't leave the man in the car while it's on fire.
Yeah.
Someone needs to be running 150 metres.
With a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, put a fire extinguisher there, because that's not the first time a crash has happened at that exact point in F2.
That weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going for an early one here. Michael Massey on the wankers list.
I don't know. For that maybe, but yeah, I mean, it's not. It's a thankless task, isn't it? Being the race director. Let's be honest. They're trying to keep everyone safe.
It might have just been a flippant comment, say, to lighten the situation as well.
If it was badly timed. Lack of reading the room.
No, I mean, I don't. I'm all for flippant comments.
Oh, if it had preceded it with "What up, bitches," yeah, then fine.
Yeah, I think because that would have gone down so much better.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a good advised stance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
as we were talking about Mercedes,
we're talking about Mercedes.
I don't think a 1-3, given the fact that Lewis Hamilton did have a pretty big penalty. I don't think that's a disaster of a race for them still. Do you know what I mean? For Lewis to still finish third after a 10-second penalty, he was leading the early stages of the race. He seemed to be, without that penalty, quite commanding. we don't know how things were going to play out because, of course, he was on a totally different tyre strategy after his Saturday fuck up.
It wasn't his fuck up; it was Vettel's fuck up.
Well, yeah, but if he hadn't run
Oh, it was
wide
still
on his
his.
first time lap, he wouldn't have been in that position.
Yes, he did fuck up as well. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Twitter this week. You know who you are.
His race engineer was fucking hilarious on Twitter. Twitter? Fuck no. I've got fucking social media on the brain. When he backed off.
Oh,
and,
yes.
He just said, we need to move. We need to go.
Go
we need
now,
to
go now.
Yeah, Bono here. Yeah. Go now. Woo! Yeah, like pooing himself on the Saturday. That was quite funny.
Was it 1.2
Was it
seconds he had left?
Yeah, I thought he'd missed it.
Yeah, I did.
I honestly
did.
thought he. Yeah.
It was cutting it very fine.
Yeah.
Very much so.
That's how it is in F1, isn't it? Fine margins and all that shit.
It has to be. But Bottas' second win of the season.
Yeah. He likes Russia,
Well, I'll
doesn't
say-
he?
Say a great win for Bottas. He kind of just had to not get in the way of anyone after the start.
Yeah, although the B.
Oh, yes.
There was a B. But, I mean, did he know about Lewis Hamilton's penalty?
I imagine not at the start, because he went for it, didn't he? You would think if you know
I
your
mean-
teammate's about to get a penalty.
Well, no, he only went for it because he missed his breaking point because of the B.
I see, yes.
I mean, even the end of the race, because I can't believe that even Valtteri Bottas, knowing that Lewis Hamilton took a 10-second penalty, would be like, fuck you, bitches.
No. To whom it may concern, bitches.
Yeah, to critics, yeah. Yeah, but it's
I
not...
thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, he must have known
That
that
can't be
Hamilton
your
had a penalty at that
catchphrase, to
point.
whom it may concern. That's not a saying.
Yeah, to whom it may concern, fuck you, bitches.
All of a sudden, the Daily Mail's gone gangster.
I mean, he proved that he can win a race when the only other person that's capable of beating them is taken completely out.
As a number
Only
two,
person
as a
who
number
beat
two
Lewis
driver,
Hamilton
that-
this week is Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah,
but as a
But
number two
I
driver,
don't-
that's your job.
but I don't think I don't think Bottas proved any massive point. It's I mean, as far as actual class of driver goes, I think the point was proved in qualifying. Was it like 7/10 faster Hamilton was to Bottas?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it was ridiculously huge.
Yeah, I don't get the win. I don't get the big victory that he had. It's great he won a race. He probably should have won more. He's in a Mercedes. If he'd have raced Hamilton and beat him on track, even that would have been squiff because of the tyre situation. But if it had been just a straight fight between the two of them, and he beat him and got on top of Hamilton, then so yeah, absolutely, you did it. No, what happened is, Bottas, Hamilton was taken completely out of contention, and you won that race that you tend to be quite good at.
Yeah, I mean, we
Go
as,
back, say
again,
what
we
you
don't
think.
know what happened with the tyre situation, do we? Because Hamilton would have been on a totally different tyre strategy.
Yeah.
But like you say, Lee, had he managed to beat him purely on tyre strategy, fantastic. Well done, Valtteri. But I mean, to put that message across when, as you say, the only person who was likely to have beaten you sort of took himself out of contention, just seems a bit. It doesn't sit as well as it did in Australia last year. Put it that way.
Yeah.
No, am I right in thinking at one point in the race, Max's race engineer radioed into him, told him the gaps between third and first, and he said, "So basically, I'm just on my own for today." Then
I didn't hear that one, but
On those lines.
yeah, there was no chance of Red Bull competing with Mercedes this weekend. I don't get it. I thought I just find it weird. I find making that sort of statement weird. I thought the fact that it's going to be. I mean, for someone like me that obviously has a swear in them here and there as well. But for knowing that that's going to be played on like family television, where people watching a sport and stuff, and you just think, it just seems a bit crass.
Teams, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, as I say, when
there's the adrenaline, there's the emotion, there's the, if it was something calculated that he prepared, then yeah, that's a massive cliche.
I think it has to be calculated because he quoted a tweet that he'd done. It had to. He was quoting a tweet that he'd replied to a fan. It had to be calculated.
Yeah,
and let's face it, he had an entire race on his own to work out what he was going to say. It was about as off the cuff as Neil Armstrong.
Just because he had just because he had 2 weeks in a TV studio to prepare for the one small step.
So my rock stars and wankers. Has anybody else got any prepared? Because I have a rock star prepared.
I have not got any prepared. Unlike Bottas, I did not come prepared.
I think Valtteri Bottas was the wanker.
That radio message.
Leclerc, little bit of a wanker for the move on Stroll, and a little bit of a rock star for driving the arse off the Ferrari.
Sainz is a bit of a wanker as well for creaming
driving
into the side of that wall.
And damaging his teammate.
Yeah, but also Lando Norris, rock star. I've never seen anyone defend like that in a Formula One car.
No. It was just a shame he ran out of tyres.
Oh, he was making that car about 3 times wider than it should have been. Pierre Gasly on the rockstar list.
I think AlphaTauri possibly collectively.
In general, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he still finished behind his teammate, didn't he? Kvyat finished ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. He did
First
do one
person
more
you want to
pit
beat
stop.
is your teammate.
Yeah, Gasly was less than a pit stop behind Kvyat, and he had one more pit stop. So, as we used to hear during the TT, on corrected time. Yeah. Any others? I mean, I've already said Michael Massey, so.
I can't think of anyone.
No, I can't think.
Really.
No. One F2.
The Russian Grand Prix in general. Just
Exactly.
Yeah. One F2 rockstar, Dan Tickton, for suddenly worrying about everyone's health and safety after the crash on Sunday morning.
And Giotto for climbing out of the wreckage of his car while it was on fire and like 3 layers of Tech Pro and just walking away like he was just like leaving the club at the end of the night, just casually strolling away from that.
Yeah, that was a better fire exit than the one in, what was it, Moto 2, where the guy's fuel line ruptured and
his arse caught fire.
His arse caught fire in his leathers.
Oh dear.
That's all over Twitter. You've got to look for that. That was quality.
Was it one of those kind of walking aways that Luca Giotto did, where he's sort of walking away, he looks back and he goes, "Well, I'm not paying for it."
I don't think he even looked back. I think he was just like, well, back to the pits then.
Yeah, it's Mazepin's dad that's going to be paying for that one.
That's very true, yes. That'll be fine then.
Yeah, because High-Tech is covered in Mazepin Inc. logos.
Yes.
Ural Chem, which...
That's the one.
Yeah, it sounds like a treatment for some kind of lower...
Downstairsy thing.
Lower problem. And we've killed that one.
Time to shunt.
Yeah, but before we shunt, I just want to make a quick apology to everyone that's taken part in Formula Lee. I've not had a chance to get the results together from the first 2 races, because the third one's going to be starting tonight. Because I've got to admit, I've not been too well recently, and I've just not been able to gather myself together to get all the results from everywhere. So we're going to do the results of the first 2 races next week, because we've got less to talk about because it's only a preview show. And it's going to be the 3rd race starting this week. And it's going to be Vietnam, which is making its Formula Lee debut. So we'll be generous and do it in the dry. And I reckon, let's have it in a Mercedes. So that is Mercedes in Vietnam in the dry. And you have got until 2 weeks tonight, which will be Monday the 12th, 7 o'clock UK time. Send us a screenshot to 3legs4wheels@gmail.com or direct message on Twitter or messages on Facebook, both at 3legs4wheels. Or if you're on PlayStation, send me a friend request if you already haven't, Pabstar, and I'll get that from the in-game leaderboard. Right, that's the Formula Lee bit done. Now it's time to shunt.
Well, we've got one for a first-time shunter today.
Ooh.
He messaged me before to remind me, and that's the one I'm going to use.
Excellent.
I will give you a hand to start with and say this one's slightly off the wall.
Is it Tech Pro?
No. This is from Levi Shrek in Omaha, Nebraska.
We've heard from Levi in the past.
We
He's,
have. Long-time tweeter, first-time shunter.
Yep.
Excellent.
I was born
Good.
yes.
Well, back to normal, because 2 weeks ago it wasn't. So
in 1972.
we'll go for a yay. Mm-hmm. Apparently people miss it when we don't have a yay after an I was born. 1972, so that makes them 48 this year.
Yes.
I have been an integral member of teams in Formula 3, Formula 3000 and Formula 1.
Okay.
My predecessor only had 10 F1 entries and 0 points were scored.
So an item or some kind of team or entity rather than a person, I believe.
Yeah, I'm thinking if it's like F3 and Formula 3000, it's going to be like either a chassis or an engine or something of that.
Someone like Van Diemen, who have been building chassis for many years over the 70s and 80s, and then had people like Ayrton Senna racing for them, but they didn't actually. I'm not sure if they made it to Formula One actually at any point.
No, they were always a big Formula 2 and Formula 3 constructor, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, but I mean, if that's born in 72 and possibly not around anymore, we'll have to wait and see.
How many different versions of Eric Broadley's and now other people's Lola team have there been? Because
Millions.
yeah, and obviously they were a chassis maker.
Have we got to give a guess?
Yeah,
Yep.
that was the third clue, wasn't it? Go with yours first, Chris. Van Diemen.
We'll get Van Diemen, yeah.
I was instrumental in the management of Gerhard Berger and Karl Wendlinger.
So alcohol then.
Both Austrian drivers. I believe Karl Wendlinger was Austrian.
Sounds generically of sort of that neck of the woods.
He's
doesn't
been
it?
German, but I think he was
Yeah.
Austrian.
I'm pretty sure he was Austrian.
I have raced in Formula 1. Oh, sorry, I've never raced in Formula 1.
Oh,
That would have been
that's
quite
the
a big
opposite.
mistake.
Yes. So associated with Formula 1, but has not raced in Formula 1.
This is looking more and more like Van Diemen at the minute.
I am one of the longest serving members of the Red Bull Racing, having been with the team since 1999.
This could be
I
Christian
would like a
Horner.
guess.
Yeah.
Right kind of age, didn't race in F1 but is associated with F1, has an F3 team, or has had an F3 team.
Wasn't fast enough, according to Martin Brundle.
That is the joke, isn't it?
Yeah. Christian Horner is a good one. Less off the wall than I would expect from what Lee said beforehand.
Off the
Is that your
pole wall,
guess?
maybe.
Can't think of. There are a couple of reasons why it might not be, but I mean, I can't think of anything better.
No, I think Horner is a good shout for the second guess.
Clue 7. My twin has a more stories racing history, having won the 24 Hours of Le Mans and raced in European Formula 2 and Formula 1.
Don't think it's Christian Horner. He is not, to the best of my knowledge, a twin.
No.
Number 8.
Yes.
I owe my career to Emerson Fittipaldi because if not for a racing incident caused by him, I would not have had the position to move into. Knowing the answer, that's tremendous, that hint. Tremendous. Good effort.
It's easy when
Whereas
you know the
it
answer.
made no sense to me whatsoever.
I'm
Yeah.
really hoping that this does make some sense at some point.
The term I would not have had the position to move into tickles me greatly.
Was that clue number 9, or was that just a bonus?
No, that was just a bonus.
Yeah, I think we need the next clue, don't we?
I led to the development of the bulletproof polycarbonate helmet divisor.
Wow. Hmm.
And given the fact I'm not wearing my glasses, I'm surprised I read polycarbonate right.
No, it was solid.
No, you got the word visor wrong. You said divisor, not visor.
I demand a recount.
Who is Mr. Arai? Is he Japanese?
I think he's also ancient.
Flood is much closer than he believes, but not because of what he said, because of what part of it sounds like.
Oh, I was going to say Bell because
Say what?
Number 10, and there is no spaffer.
Oh, hell.
oh god,
I am more form than function.
Bertram F1 car windscreen.
Oh.
Hang on, more form than function. You're an Apple Mac. Man alive, this is tough.
Yeah, I'm not coming with much here. It's the twin thing that's getting me, I think. So if we're thinking it's an entity, it's going to be like a sister company or something like that. That's...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very confused.
If you really focus, you'll see what it is.
Dutch prog rock. Focus.
Hocus Pocus.
You seem to be like blind here.
Would it be something to do like tinted visors?
I got it. I'm going to throw this guess out, and I'm not going to say what it is. I'm just going to throw this one. Are you Dietrich Mateschitz' glass eye?
Oh, amazing.
Oh, sorry, Helmut Marko's glass eye.
Doesn't matter. I don't care. You were close enough.
That is amazing.
Oh my god.
That is stunning.
Hence the reason why number 8, I owe my career to Emerson Fittipaldi, who caused the incident. I would not have had the position to move into.
That is
Tickled me so
that
much.
is biologically very specific.
That was brilliant. Levi, really well done, mate. That was good.
Yeah, because of course Helmut Marko had his eye taken out by an incident at, was it Clermont-Ferrand in France?
No idea.
I think it was.
Yeah. And where part of the track wasn't
Which
ended
ended
asphalt,
his,
was it?
which of course ended his F1 career.
It did, yeah, totally. Yeah, he was running like 5th or something at the time as well. So he wasn't a terrible Formula One driver, but I found it interesting when Helmut Marko was talking about Jochen Rindt, at the Italian Grand Prix, how they were friends as children, and sort of Helmut Marko followed him into motorsport. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
No,
With
I
the
hadn't.
show,
I hadn't appreciated that until they showed that interview. So it was
Yeah.
good to hear an actual human interview from Helmut Marko.
And none of this like COVID camp where he's going to try and make sure the people.
None of that. That was a little bit of a crazy idea.
Yeah, we got to see there's more to him than Marco Bot.
Yes,
There's more to him than meets the eye.
just the one.
Hey!
What, a bit of Emerson Fittipaldi's car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Moving swiftly away from that, how do you send in a total shunt?
You can send it to me in a PM on Twitter at Total Shunt or on Instagram at Total Shunt. Doing one of those.
Yeah, or if you want to get one on the reserve list, because I've been running short for the last few weeks for when Lee's not about, email 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. Already said before, you can get in touch with the show at 3legs4wheels on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and individually on Twitter we are
At Sean Cowper.
Flood 21.
and at Pablo100. Just want to get a plug in for our iRacing League as well. If anybody out there does iRacing and they've not heard us talking about this before, we have league races every Sunday night, 8 o'clock UK time. Join in with us on Discord on the chat. It's a good laugh. There's a load of us race every week. If you want the details, drop us a DM or drop us a line, and I'll send you the information where to sign up. I think that about does it for this week, doesn't it?
So, should we just say a big thanks to our friends?
We've not plugged the Patreon yet, because if we get an extra $50 in Patreon donations, Chris is gonna do something special.
I'm going to cover a song.
I think we need to tell people what it is.
Or do they have to sign up to the Patreon to find out?
That is true, actually. If you go to patreon.com
Yay, paywalls.
Patreon.com/3legs4wheels, you will hear this week's Patreon show, where there's a play-out track on there, and it's a little bit poppier than we'd normally have, and Chris has offered to do a acoustic cover version of it if we get another $50 in donations.
Yes.
And I'll say that one more time.
Inspired by Ted Bundy as well.
Inspired by Ted Bundy. You see what I did with the one more time thing? Yeah, okay, that fell on its arse. My jokes are toxic. I'm giving you...
Too many clues.
Right, I'll give you
This isn't a total shunt.
No, that's true. Yeah, I've not got another 9 of them. So, yeah, sign up to Patreon. If we get another $50 a month in donations, Chris will bust out the acoustic and the recording gear, and you will get an acoustic pop cover. What more could you ask for?
Exactly.
Well, except for an extra show every week, and knowing that everything you donate goes towards the podcast and helps us out.
Yes. And also, I just want to say thanks to our friends at Cloud Above as well for all the hard work they do in hosting all of the work that work that Paul does. I don't do anything; I just talk.
Yeah, if you're looking for web hosting, the UK-based web host cloudabove.com. Really friendly people, really knowledgeable tech support staff, and they've helped us out no end over the last 5 years.
Wow.
It's a very patient group of people to put up with us for that long.
Actually, we're coming up to the 6th anniversary of 3 Legs 4 Wheels. I think we may have just had it.
I can't remember when it was. It was when was the very first Formula E race?
It was the day of the first Formula E race. Let me just have a look.
That's handy.
Well, yeah, it was a throwaway Facebook comment. I still remember the one. Just watched Formula E race. There's a lot of XF1 drivers in there. Still a bit crap though.
That's what started 3 Legs 4 Wheels,
and that's what kicked us all off. Oh, we actually missed the anniversary.
We've just had it. Yeah,
it was the 13th of September. It was 2 weeks ago.
Ah.
We are 6.
We are now 6. Bloody hell! Right, and it's also 25 to 11. So we are now calling it a night and going to bed.
Sleepy times.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.